This is one of a number of monthly spotlight sessions that we run as part of Evidence for Quality Improvement, which is a Q supported special interest group and initiative that's been running for a few years now, led by myself and a series of colleagues across the country, which is a partnership between library and knowledge specialists and the quality improvement community. And I'm really delighted that we have quite a movement now across the country, and you guys are part of that. So thank you so much for taking part in this initiative. What we try to do is connect quality improvements, so anybody working anywhere in quality improvement, with anything to do with knowledge sharing, evidence, research, and generally coming together to learn from each other and build on our collective knowledge and expertise. So that's what all of this is about. And if you ever have any ideas, suggestions, or anything else that we can build on or make happen, that's very much what our group's about. And we still have funding for at least until January. So there's very much the opportunity to do it. There's a number of events that we run. So this is one of them that runs monthly. We also run training, which happens the first Wednesday of every month, which is led by our colleagues in Dorset. We also have monthly meetings for the library knowledge specialists. We are running sessions which are with academics where they talk through research papers. And we're also running lots of other sessions and local medium sessions as well. So if you've got any ideas, we do try to make those happen. Without further ado, though, let's move on to what we're here to do today, which is talk to Hayden and Lisa and their wonderful team down in Cornwall about the fabulous QI work. So these sessions are really about learning from each other and learning how other teams across the country do QI, and sharing their success, celebrating their success, learning from their experiences, and hopefully helping each other share the brilliant stuff that we're all doing. So I'm going to shut up and let's move over to Hayden and Lisa. Throughout this session, if you've got questions, do pop them in the chat box. Hopefully we should have time at the end to ask any questions, and you know, please do engage in this. This is all about learning and sharing. So over to you, Hayden, Lisa, and enjoy, guys. And this is a peer sharing, knowledge sharing opportunity. So really do make the most of this opportunity to learn and share from your peers.
Thank you, Andrea, and thanks for inviting us today. We've really been looking forward to doing this. So I'm Lisa. I'm a QI lead at Royal Cornwall, and I'm presenting today with Hayden. And Hayden's a communication and engagement support in our team. So we've got a presentation, and then more than happy to take questions throughout. So it's just a talk to you today about our kind of QI journey and what's gone well and what has been a barrier. A little bit of context about how we deliver QI. So we are a team in Cornwall of about 20 people, not whole-time equivalents, part-time and full-time. And we were amalgamated and come with a range of backgrounds. So we are programme managers, project managers, we have people who've got a clinical background, and we were amalgamated to create a quality improvement team, primarily based on feedback from the staff, really, that they sort of didn't know about QI. They wanted to be involved, but they didn't really have a place to take QI in the organisation. And this was back in 2018. And our sort of structure is a bit like the pyramid you see. So our top part of our work is that large-scale change, anything that's really transformational across the organisation. So things like our flow programme, which I'm sure many of you are involved in, that has a lot of our team involved in that. Anything that's sort of NHS mandated, or the big sort of transformational change across the system. The middle part of the work we do is more based on sort of maybe service improvement changes or medium-sized projects, maybe anything that might need a little bit of rigour, have financial controls, and might need some of our project management structure around it, but also using that opportunity to infiltrate with QI at any opportunity. And this really sort of crosses through to our departments and wards, and examples have been like our tobacco dependency project, or our patient booking and flow. With the QI culture and engagement, which is the programme that Hayden and I have been involved in, this was about trying to build our QI capability and capacity across the organisation. So it was really the very initial steps of our journey was about that, trying to say to staff that it's everyone's business to do QI, and we need that culture to be able to take us on this journey. So it's that sort of, QI is anybody's business, anybody can do it. And so we started really, really small with actually how do we start to identify QI in Royal Cornwall. And we know that QI is happening across the organisation, and sometimes, we're just not aware of that. So again, it was the programme was initiated to bring all that together, and we'll go on to talk about how we've delivered that. If we move on to the next slide, the sort of methodology we use is the IHI model for improvement, but in all of our training and any sort of touch points we have with staff, we do say to them, doesn't matter, we don't care what you use. If you're doing QI, use whatever works for you. But one of the things we did do with the model for improvement, which we like because we sort of like the emphasis on those 3 questions, and they're very sort of, they cascade down right through to let's test a change. But one of the things we have done, which has been really powerful at Royal Cornwall, is develop that to our 6 steps. So that's so we can break it down even further. And because we have found people can get a little bit lost in the sort of, what am I going to do first? How do I sort of set this up? Where do I go? How do I initiate? And so we use our 6 steps graphic in all of our training, across all of our social media, and any contacts we have with our staff, just to help to really start to break it down into the most basic of approaches. And the involving the stakeholders is the sort of powerful message that I think sometimes gets lost in the IHI model. So that's what we always try to communicate, is that actually you need people on side and you need those teams. You very rarely can deliver QI on your own. Next slide, please. So in terms of our programme, we have an improvement strategy at Royal Cornwall, and that's been our overarching sort of lead. It's where the powerful leadership and the support for the programme has been sort of an ending, really, and I think that's pivotal to getting this off the ground. But for us, when we started, we had to think about actually what were the approaches, what were the things we really needed to focus on to get and build the QI culture and capability. So a huge part of it was just our branding, was making our presence known. There was lots of people across the organisation that didn't know who we were as a team, or didn't know quite what we did, or even that sort of, oh, I've heard about QI, but it doesn't really apply to me. So there was a big focus in our sort of year 1 push on actually how can we communicate to our organisation what our offer is and what we can do. So that's where we started to build our social media presence, our branding, developing things like our website and our newsletters, making sure that we disseminate the information with the key QI resources, so that we're trickling into people's consciousness about who we are and what we do. We also developed some things like QI Awards and Improver of the Month, just so we could start to build on that celebrating part of QI. Running in tandem to this was also our sort of focus on engagement. It was then getting into the organisation to say, we want to hear about actually what can you tell us about what needs to change and how can we help you do that? So a huge part of our programme was the development of our Q ideas, which you can see is the QR code behind us. And this is our staff engagement platform. This is in-house and internally developed so that our staff can submit any improvement ideas that they might have. And we've linked with our research colleagues and also our innovation teams so that staff really, really quickly can scan a QR code and submit an idea. And that then is taken forward by our team, and it can be low-level signposting or connecting them with other teams that are doing something similar, right through to sort of, supporting with investment requests and business cases or service changes. So that's been really, really pivotal, because that gave us the whole foundation for our staff to be able to talk to us. A huge part of also what we've done is to develop our toolkit and resources, so they're available in our intranet site and with any sort of touch points we have with staff. And again, that gives us the opportunity to talk about actually why QI can really be powerful and beneficial in the areas you're working. And sitting alongside that was our push with our 15 seconds, 30 minutes. So that really super simple QI. Actually, you're probably doing QI, but you're not calling it improvement. We also make sure that we have been building our networks across kind of local, regional and national opportunities for us learning. And I met with several people probably on this call before, as we were setting up the QI Hub, and their experience and their support has been really invaluable. And it's the one thing that actually keeps us kind of coming up with ideas about how we can develop this programme. We've started doing things, and the pandemic paused us, but we started doing things like QI cafes. So again, going to physical locations across our 3 sites where we could engage with staff, talk to them about what QI is and listen to them with improvement ideas or frustrations and be able to sort of manage that. For me, there's nothing more powerful about sort of being able to walk around the hospitals and to see and talk to staff. And obviously in the pandemic we sort of moved to this virtual model, and that has been one of the challenges, but we've sort of kept pressing forward, and things like celebrating successes for our staff. And now we do a lot of background work to track those down, but for us it's again that engagement element. It means that we can showcase to staff that improvement can happen even in the sort of environment that we find ourselves in. One of the other things that we're looking to do now as we work with our ICS system is to develop QI across our board in Cornwall, and that's a really exciting kind of space to be in. We've also, with our programme, looking at how we can focus now on that participation. So hopefully they know who we are, that they know what they can do, but actually how do we get people now to build that capability? And capacity is always an issue, and I think it always will be. But we've also managed to build quite a rigorous education infrastructure with our QI training platforms, and we'll talk about that in a moment. We've made sure that our learn and share events now are starting to be opened up to the whole of our trust, and we're hoping to open them up nationally as well, so that again we can learn from each other about actually the challenges in the complexity of healthcare. What can we do that sort of pushes this forward? Hayden's been really pivotal at sort of making sure that we've got lots of resources and in the form of digital formats, and they've been really well received. And we use our Q Ideas platform. We have the ability to have we have a dashboard behind that, so that helps us to identify those groups of staff that are engaging and wanting help with QI, and perhaps those staff who are a little bit sort of invisible or reticent, so we can do some more targeted work.
So thanks, Lisa. So just to kind of summarise our first year of our programme, really, where it might be a bit small for some of it, but just to kind of pick out some of what we feel are our real achievements. So towards the end of the year of the first year of our programme, we were able to run our first QI conference, which unfortunately had previously been postponed due to COVID. So it was delivered slightly later than we originally wanted. But we actually had an incredible attendance to it of over 300 people that are internal staff, but we also opened it up across our system and nationally as well. So we had some people from other trusts, and that for me in particular was a real highlight, because it really got us to showcase what we've done and kind of how people had come on their journeys across QI in the trust, and we just kind of were able to be that facilitating body to help them get their messages out and share what they've done, share their learning. So that was fantastic. We also, like Lisa mentioned, Q Ideas. It kind of was born at the start of the programme, at the first couple of months of the programme, and then by the end of the programme we're now in a really good place that it's meant that we're able to kind of deliver it into actual teams now, and the teams are taking control of that and able to really lead with their own ideas, with us kind of supporting from afar, and to really kind of build that capability of QI across the trust. So I think there's probably some really exciting kind of opportunities coming with that, but it's a real, as I'm sure we'll all agree within the NHS, to get anything up and running can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. So for me it's a real positive that we were able to get this and actually give our colleagues and our staff members something that is needed and that they were asking for, and a way for us to kind of help them through those journeys and give them that specialist kind of knowledge or support. We also had some brilliant training figures for this year, where in the year of the programme we've managed to train 708 staff members. This was taken a couple of minutes before the end of our programme, so it's probably a little bit higher, but for us that was really, really good, given, as I'm sure we'll all agree, the stresses that have been in place. That's felt like a really good number, particularly to then help them deliver QI. And like Lisa said, I think we all know it's happening, but actually to get people to come forward with it is a different matter. So we've now just got those more bodies around our trust who we know and can pick up on QI now. We were able to do this stock take at the end of the year, which I think we both agree it was really motivating to see actually what we did achieve, because don't know about you guys, but there's a whole element of you're in the programme and you're just doing your day work. You don't really look back. You don't kind of reflect on what you've achieved or what this kind of means, wider picture. So for us, we took this stock take, and I think it really, really helped us to kind of solidify actually we have achieved a great deal and we should be really proud of what we have managed to achieve. And now from those kind of stock take, we were able to kind of prioritise what we now need to move forward with and work out, okay, we feel this has gone really well, but this part we could really push a bit further, we could make something else happen here. So I think that was has been really good. The biggest thing, again, other element is we mentioned around kind of branding and presence. For me in particular, there's a massive element of our kind of brand awareness. So we've now got to a point where we're doing more face-to-face training and face-to-face kind of meetings or cafes again, and people go, oh well, I don't know about the QI Hub, but I know that logo and I know those colours, I've seen those. And for me that really highlighted how much actually that kind of brand awareness is making a massive difference for us in particular. So just thinking about how kind of brand awareness can be the biggest thing to impact on your delivery of your service, and that can be the single most important investment that I would say, probably from my opinion, that you can make as a team, to invest in kind of that branding and presence. Just going to move on. So just to kind of talk us through some of our steps, like Lisa said at the start, we have our 6 steps to QI. Alongside that, we have a toolkit, and we have tools and templates and just additional handouts and information for every step of that kind of journey of those 6 steps. The idea being that anyone can access those. They're available in multiple places, particularly via our intranet. And we share those out and people can use them and they're fully functional. So it means that people can kind of pick up wherever they want, and then they're able to come back, particularly with things like driver diagrams and process maps. They then come back and go, this is what I've done. Is that right? Could you help me? Just giving people the kind of autonomy and the independence to do it themselves, I think for some people is really great. That's how they work, and it's much easier for them to kind of get that mentality. The other aspect that we've been focused on recently is kind of thinking about how we can develop our digital resources. We are a trust that is split over 3 sites across Cornwall, and it can be really difficult to have that physical presence on all 3 sites, or actually to reach out to colleagues who are just harder, clinical staff. It can be really hard to pin people down. So after our conference, there was a real kind of increase, and people particularly clinical, were really keen to have kind of some digital resources at their fingertips that they were able to share out with all their kind of foundation doctors or all of their new members of staff, whether they're able to see them at induction or come to training. At least they would have these resources and they would know what to do. So from that, we've been able to develop these digital resources. We will make sure you get this slide deck after, so you're welcome to go and have a look at them via the links. I won't go into them now. But as my role of communications and engagement, it's really allowed me to focus on kind of our content creation and kind of how we can use content to increase our engagement and communicate out with our staff. So a big one was around our quality improvement stories, or our QI stories, which is a book that we just continuously add to for people who are doing changes, who are making improvements, and then we just help them capture them, and then it means that they can be shared, like not only with social media or internal newsletters and things like that, but actually it's there as a resource that then anyone can access, and it's categorized into, you know, patient care or patient safety, sustainability, and people can really dive into what other people have been doing and a way to share out their work. So that's been fantastic.
I think with the QI stories as well, it's powerful in that it helps to link that connection between people who think that either they're not doing any sort of improvement, or that they sometimes just, you know, they haven't got any headspace or ability to do it. The QI stories tend to be our smaller scale change. So within that, they can then identify either areas that have done the change and perhaps link with them to get the experience and knowledge about where to start in their own area, but also about that, like I said, ability to do change even within the kind of really busy environment that we find ourselves in. So our staff have really responded well to that, and they really like now the sort of digital element of, so with our training, we also provide a digital guide for the delegates to follow. And again, that's been, I guess we're just moving with the times, and that for us, I suppose, is improvement in the title. It's that, what can we do a little bit differently? And we like using kind of the accessibility of a QR code and things now, because our staff always have our mobile devices on them. So that for us has been again really powerful.
Open the door, hasn't it? It's opened the door to reach a lot more of our staff. You know, like Lisa said, everyone has a phone on them most of the time, whereas they might not be sat at a computer, they might not be able to access that. So it goes the same with our Q Ideas platform, along with all of our resources, QR codes, or digitally that they can just pick them up whenever they want. They can flip through at their leisure. They're also not tied to our intranet, so they don't have to be at work. You know, if someone's working night shifts but they want to contact us during the day, they now have that option. So really just trying to explore and open up the doors for everyone to be able to reach us. Not to say that we're against physical resources, but we are moving towards that more digital way of working, and I think that follows also really nicely our sustainability plan and kind of our green aims that we're trying to achieve. And the only other thing I was going to say, just if anyone didn't know what a QI cafe was, we treat it as kind of a physical or a virtual space where members of our team are around, or we go and in-reach into different departments and areas, make sure that we introduce ourselves, offer any support, tell them a bit about what we can do and how we can help them, and then we kind of do that monthly to kind of build those relationships with those members of staff, in the hope that they kind of start to recognise us and think about what we do. Like I said, we're just getting these up and running again, and they've been running for since we started this year, so they're going really well, and particularly kind of having appointments in the in-reach of going to people again is really positive, and people seem to really enjoy that. So just quickly to go on to our training, just checking the time. So this is just a very kind of high level of our training programme, like Lisa was mentioning, that we have quite a robust education infrastructure now, which we worked quite hard to get to this level, but we're able to go kind of right from that just awareness all the way to kind of what we deem our expert level, which has our quality improvement ambassadors, which is our full 3-day in-depth training that takes them through the entire kind of 6 steps and model for improvement, takes them through majority of the tools, if not more, and really gives people a chance to kind of do that networking as well and reaching out to others. We've had really good responses from that, and really proud with how that's working, I think, for people. I think within this area that we probably more so struggle with, or we find it's harder to reach that people, is that kind of intermediate level where people, you know, can be released for 2-3 hours to kind of learn about QI, have enough of a knowledge so that they could go off and do it themselves, but not to the point where it's the expert level. So I think that's been more challenging to kind of embed. We found that's harder to embed within our current programme, and I think that comes back to that whole capacity element that I'm sure we are all well aware of. But yeah, so this just kind of gives you an overall, and it varies in length, like you can see, right from a 10-minute video just giving awareness right up to our kind of 3 days. We also provide kind of on request specialty training or specialist facilitation. So we could be training in a team around QI. We could do a workshop, and we help facilitate like individual workshops around addressing a certain issue within a team, or a certain opportunities presented itself and they're not sure how to progress. And then we also kind of individually support every single Q idea that comes in. So when it comes to us, we will then work with the person who submitted that idea to kind of get that idea off the ground. So that's been fantastic as well. And then we obviously also have kind of our doctors, which we tend to work slightly differently with, because the foundation doctors work slightly different. Is there anything else you want to add, Lisa?
I was just going to say with this, one of the things we realised it was required in the training was not just training about QI and how you can start on an improvement journey, but there was also a need for our managers, that kind of intermediate manager level, to know how to support their staff. So that's where our manager's passport focuses on QI training a little bit differently. It helps to give experience and knowledge on how you can support staff with improvement, and also to help staff to identify what improvement might be. So I think that was a really good way of looking at things. With our ambassadors as well, what we found after the ambassadors left our training all energized and galvanized to go and make huge improvements was that the day-to-day job would suck them back into you know, sort of just head down, get on, get through the day. And it's still an ongoing issue about how do you build that capacity in the NHS for staff to have the headspace to do QI. So one of the things we also offer now after the ambassadors have finished their training is dedicated coaching. So we call it QI coaching, and we make sure that we touch base with our ambassadors. We provide a network, we provide dedicated support just to try and keep their confidence and increase their sort of ability to go back into the foray and deliver QI. And one of the changes we tried at our last round of ambassadors was to do a triangulated meeting with the ambassador and then their immediate line manager and a QI coach as well, in the hope that that sort of increases the confidence of the ambassador, helps us to support the ambassador, but also enables the line manager to recognise that they have this really fantastic resource now sitting within their realm, and therefore that, you know, there is opportunities, everything from small scale improvement right through to potentially cost improvements as well. And I have mentioned the finance word there, but it's really important for us to keep sort of evolving this and developing this. One of our other elements now is that we're looking at training across the system. So how do we get QI in the system across Cornwall? And that's a really exciting place to be. I will just say, which I did mention, even though we're a team of 20, which I know for some is a massive QI team, and you know we're fully grateful of this, this programme has primarily been delivered with, I think we worked out, it's about 2.2 whole-time equivalent. So it's Hayden and myself, and then we have a training manager as well. And we do recruit our team to come and deliver training, facilitated sessions, supporting Q ideas. But primarily because we were given that strong leadership that, you know, no, we want QI at Cornwall, please, you know, develop this as a programme and go off and deliver it. Having that sort of autonomy has meant that we've been able to sort of put our fingers in all of these pies and develop this to sort of the best of our ability up to now. If we just move on, because of course the thing that we've shouted about what we have done, we haven't talked about what the barriers have been, and I hate to mention it, but I've got to say the big bad C word. COVID really derailed us. So we were a team that were amalgamated, and we were starting to get our kind of foundations and working out what programs and projects we would support. And then COVID came along. The whole team were redeployed during the period. So we've now had to come back into a period of regrouping, which, you know, working in teams is really difficult. We can't get away from the fact that we have got such a tired workforce. Their resilience is low. They're really exhausted. It can feel like you're asking them to do just one more thing. And you know, understandably, the head down and I want to just do my day job and go home and survive the day. Really, really understandable. So we've had to take that into context, and we're really sort of cognizant of, actually, when do we go and approach staff? When do we go into clinical areas now that we're allowed to? You know, sounding positive is fantastic, but it's got to be with understanding and sensitivity about the sort of current political situation, and also, you know, sort of our Royal Cornwall's quite unique in its locality, so we have to be mindful of that. We've had huge delays with our treating patients and things, and we've been working with our ED department, but also, you know, just that sensitivity and timing as well is really, really important.
Yeah, the new ways of working. So don't know about the rest of you guys, but working remotely through COVID, we unfortunately had to lose our physical location, which was a hub, a big open space that people could come and visit us. And unfortunately, we've lost that, and we haven't been able to regain that space. So as well as kind of trying to reach out and rebuild and make sure that people are aware that we're there, we now have to factor in that, you know, not just us, but a lot of people are working differently, and how we now reach those people is going to be dramatically different. As I'm sure we'll agree, constant conflicting priorities. We are a team that tends to be quite reactive as well. We are pulled in quite a lot to reactive work, which is not a problem, but it does mean that we generally have conflicting priorities, which I think only highlights how lucky myself and Lisa were for this programme, to have that real directive of being protected to do this work, because I think without that we could have really struggled, and I don't think we would have been able to get to where we are today without that. And then the NHS pace, which always makes me smile, because I'm a baby in the NHS effectively. I've only been here 4 years. That is nothing. So I never really registered what the NHS, when people said, oh, the NHS just takes ages. I just didn't really think about it. But there's a particular pace as an organisation that we unfortunately do have, and that pace is a bit slow. And so I think, as much as we wanted things to move across quickly, there is a barrier, and things just take time. They just do, unfortunately. But it comes around in the end. So moving on, we wanted to share some of our learned lessons with you, really. So the biggest one is QI momentum takes that time, and for us it took more than we ever could have imagined to kind of get that momentum, and even now I think we're back to rebuilding that momentum again, following kind of still not having a presence and people coming back on site to start working again, trying to find their new normal, as it were. Still, it takes more time than you think. Other big one was that networking is incredibly useful, and for us it has been the key to our learning. It's been the key to how we kind of designed our programme, how we kind of made things move forward, and what we kind of took away from building those networking relationships, whether in groups like this or one-on-one, reaching out to different people. So if you have the opportunity, I would just say do it. Just make sure you do it. You'll never realise until you start using them, how much that opportunity is helpful to have. So appeal to your hearts and minds. I'm sure we can all agree with that one. With you can't just give the kind of the one side of it. You've got to appeal to everyone's hearts and minds. Did you want to take it? I can't remember if you were.
Yeah, we were just going to say the narrative is so important, isn't it? Because it isn't just you need to improve because we're telling you to build our kind of capability. It's why does the individual, why does a team, why does a care group need to do things differently? So that's really important to us, and we sort of use every touch point as that opportunity to say, oh, have you thought about doing this? Or gosh, what frustrates you? What could you do differently? And that's why going with our grassroots, that's from our pyramid, our tiered approaches, that sort of bottom swell of our, you know, huge workforce, is to really reach out and get to them, because the leadership and the strategic intent is all incredibly vital, but we also need our grassroots workforce to understand why we're doing it and to learn from them. I just absolutely will be challenged on anyone saying that our people who are working in those areas don't know actually what needs to be different or what could be made better. And it's trying to harness that passion and knowledge and their experience and then supporting them with it. There's multiple articles out there that talk about how you have to have that strong leadership, and we've been really, really fortunate. We've got executive backing, and their involvement has kept QI agenda at the forefront, and that's been pivotal. We've just got a new refreshed strategy. Improvement remains one of the key aims of the organisation, so keeping it front and foremost for us is pivotal. It gives us the permission to develop this programme and to make sure that we kind of grow our organisation relating to QI. We did start small, and it's got to be small to be achievable. But doing that stock take, like Hayden said, was really pivotal, because actually there's a momentum in the NHS where you're sort of next day new thing, what's next on the agenda. Looking back is usually sort of the last thing that you do.
There's also an element of kind of, you just get your hooks into people that way, something that people realise, oh, I can do this, and then all of a sudden they think a little bit bigger and then a little bit bigger, and it just kind of grows to get those people, a pinch with pride, making sure you learn from one another, all those types of things, and making sure that they realise they can show off their work, that they can kind of complete that circle, make sure it's communicated out so that they know what they're doing is important and it does making a difference. So I just
I mean, we found when we went out for our conference and we said, please send in your improvement work, and we'd love to showcase it. We were inundated, so we knew QI was happening across the organisation, but again it was back to that people were doing improvement but not calling it that, or they were using elements of methodologies and saying, I don't know anything about QI, and sort of delivering almost perfect improvement work. So for us, that again, closing the loop, celebrating success, sharing what people are doing, raising them up, supporting them with submissions to national awards so that they can be recognised for the work they do, is for us as important as saying, let me talk to you about what QI is. And I guess the single thing that we do in the team, and we try and do every single time, is just to make ourselves available. So whatever it is, if we can be the conduit between a conversation, between a signpost, between a bit of support, between how I haven't thought about how I'm going to measure this, well, let's have a chat. If we can do that sort of incremental build of QI knowledge comes, and we've seen it time and time again where people have started perhaps never having used any of a QI tool before, and the first 2 times they're sort of like, oh, I'm not sure about these process maps, it seems a bit of a fad, to sort of 3 months later, the first thing we're going to do is use a process map so we really understand what's happening. And it's just, again, it's that it's really nice to sit on the periphery of watching the people in our organisation grow in confidence in understanding and using improvement.
It's helped us, I think, also we've we're seen as a bit of a team who can help, like even if that is just to signpost you to someone else with the team that can help you get on that route, whatever that might be, or might know someone adjacent, or even if we don't, we'll try and help you and find you the right route. So that's kind of that consistent kind of can-do attitude has really helped, I think, in that respect.
So a little bit now, just to conclude about kind of what's next for us. So we sat down and worked out what year 2 might look like. And you know, we're fully aware that this can go on for decades and decades, long after I'm gone. But what's pivotal for us now is our involvement in our patient safety framework, or our PSERV, which some of you might be aware of. And so we now have one of our QI managers who sits with our incident learning group, really supporting teams who've had incidences, identify actions and improvement. And that was really pivotal for us. It's such a massive part of organisational learning. We're launching our patient leader programme in the next few weeks, hopefully. Having patients involved in improvement has always been a significant aim. And so these patients will be trained in improvement methodology, and then will sit on improvement projects across the organisation, helping us to develop services. And it's so pivotal that we have them as a key stakeholder. As I mentioned, we're looking at our collaborative working now across Cornwall and the system, which is really exciting. And we're looking at what a QI strategy might look like, and developing that. And that's it. That's in partnership working.
And then our intranet and internet sites. So our internet, it's well established, but it does need a refresh. And you know, that's more and more a place that people go to try and find the information. So there'll be a bit of work to do around that, and to making sure that it's kind of accessible as possible, moving forward with how we need things to work for future as well. And then we're really keen to kind of get something externally that not only works for our internal colleagues, but can be work for patients, could work for anybody who's interested in QI. So that's kind of a new venture for us, looking at how we could create some kind of an internet landing page. And then our other aim is around kind of that new ways of working, reaching colleagues, how we're going to develop our resources. I'm lucky enough that in my position, I'm also doing an apprenticeship around public relations and communications. And it's really highlighted the way that we need to have a think about new thinking, new ways of working. So, you know, it might not be known, but like Twitter is not that popular anymore, you know, and staff don't really use Facebook that much. They might be part of the group, but they don't look at it. You know, people don't find reading easy. They don't want to look at, you know, paragraphs of text to find out one part. So we're really moving towards, and my focus is really moving towards that kind of that new way of we can reach people, that new engagement. So thinking about how we can create videos, how we could do podcasts, how we can expand on those digital resources, you know, really hit all those groups that we may not be reaching at the moment. You know, and so those are some really exciting things. And I think we're lucky enough to get to be creative, and it will link, you know, back to our core themes of that kind of branding and presence, our visibility, and kind of also then how we can sustain and scale and carry on celebrating, you know. So through videos, do people come and join us on the podcast? Do they shout about their work? You know, there's lots of different options there. So there's some really exciting work to be done. And for me, there's a massive part of, I love sharing what other people have done. I think there's just some real nice, warm, fuzzy feelings to celebrate other people. So yeah, so I think that is, yes, my mouth. That's everything. So
that's us.
That's us. So thank you, everyone. I am going to stop sharing now because I can't see anyone. And there we go.
Really happy to take any questions.
Thank you both so much. And I know I'm speaking for everybody. Look at that. There you go. Thank you so much for that fantastic presentation and for sharing your story. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. Does anybody want to kick off with the first question? There's some lovely comments in there. If you haven't had the chance to look at the chat box,
I'm going to have a read now.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know, Jill, you had a few comments and questions in there. Did you want to come on to mic, or I know you mentioned you weren't feeling brilliant, so I didn't know if you wanted to come onto the mic to talk through your comments, and you had a question in there, didn't you?
Hi, Andrea. Yeah, I'm struggling with
You're
a
not
sore
feeling
throat
brilliant,
a
are
bit.
you? Sorry. If you do you want me to, I can read it out if you prefer, but it's probably better coming from you, isn't it?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so yeah, I've just been commenting away as I do. I love what you do in Cornwall. I was just going to share a link to a podcast I recorded with Sarah Jane Pedler, your PMA, whatever that stands for, Professional Midwifery Advocate. And I think to move with the times and podcasts and videos and little snippets and so on, it's great. So just well done, really.
Thank you. Yeah, SJ's amazing.
She is, she really is. And I
some
introduced
incredible
her
people.
rather outrageously. So I get people that I think, across the country, they must meet each other. And Gaynor Armstrong, who's our director of midwifery in Coventry, I thought she must meet. So it's like one of those social media must meet, on a dating site, but through intentional coffee. And I linked them up on the podcast, and they'd never even spoken to each other or emailed each other before. And then suddenly they're having this amazing conversation. So I think that's the kind of thing that engages people and spreads good practice across the country. So I'll share a link to that anyway, but I'll be quiet now.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think I often describe it as sort of finding my tribe, and that's how I feel. We join a national communications group, and we've got our Southwest network.
I'm
It's
nodding.
just
You're nodding.
It's just so important. And when we were setting up the QI hub, we went out to people on this call and said, what are you doing? What works well for you? What can we steal? And they graciously let us steal, and that's helped us to kind of develop. But that networking is so pivotal, and it also, I think, it helps keep you motivated when things get tough. It's good to be in a room, even if it's virtual, and to be with people who understand.
Fantastic. Shall we move over to Dawn in Torquay?
Thank you, and thank you, Cornwall team. That was such an inspiring set of messages and slides, and just such an incredible force for change in Cornwall. So hugely thankful for you sharing that with us. I think in Torbay and South Devon, we endeavour and intend to be a similar force for change, and indeed there is so much commonality about the things that we're trying to do that you have already accomplished. And I'm sure that rings true for so many of our QI teams across the NHS. But I think our overwhelming challenge is, how do we carve out enough time to dedicate to building that QI capability and engagement and participation and networking and celebration alongside the delivery of change to support the restoration of care and the sustaining of care, given the very difficult position that our NHS trusts are in, particularly in Devon and Cornwall at the moment. So I just wondered how you do that. Do you have protected time for everybody to participate in this, or do you have people with dedicated roles so that there's no conflict around them getting involved in the delivery of work with building this programme?
Yeah, absolutely, Dawn. It's an ongoing challenge. So within our team, we are obviously, if one of our QI managers is assigned to support a project, they will do it with the project manager hat on, but also with the ability to infuse the project with QI and infect all of the project team at the same time, which is pivotal, because again, it's that touch point opportunity, and it's keeping the project on track using QI as well, which is beneficial. But our workforce don't generally have that protected time, and that's such a major challenge. And it is something that we battle against, and we're no further forward in sort of solving, apart from perhaps identifying that some of our smaller projects now using QI probably help to keep the momentum going. You know, it's a lot quicker to get to what are they trying to achieve and how are they going to do it. But it's something that, again, you'll know, being in Devon, the locality of Devon and Cornwall makes us sort of quite unique as well in the country, and we're up against it in winter and we're up against it in summer, and again, so you know, we have those kind of pinch points as well, but within the team we are lucky, and we recognise being a larger team means that we are able to dedicate more resource to sort of particularly our priority projects like flow and things, but yeah, don't have an answer about that sort of carving out that really protected time. I did work with a trust who talked about their staff being given protected time. It was worked into their job plans, and it was a really interesting you know, sort of concept, and you know, they were really honest in that actually it works, it was the right thing to do and it works well on paper, but again, they couldn't always achieve it. So yeah, it doesn't really answer, but that's the reality at the moment.
I think what we try and do is do the other back end. So we might not be able to give them the capacity, but we can help get them to share out what they may have been able to achieve, no matter how small. Or if it hasn't worked, why not share that anyway? That's still really useful learning. So I think there is, we almost, or for me, I try and mitigate some of that. It's like they go, well, I can't complete this, I'm gonna have to put it on pause, I'm never going to be able to pick it back up. Okay, but let's celebrate what you have done, let's tell people what you have managed to do, and someone else might come forward and want to help you with that, you know. I guess it's, again, for me, there's a part of, we just try and keep that networking, that kind of, okay, we'll help if we can kind of element open, but like Lisa said, I don't think there's no quick fix, unfortunately.
Brilliant, thank you. Can I, sorry, Andrea, can I just ask a follow-up question then? And sorry for all the moving around, my battery was low, so I have to plug my laptop in. But in terms of your 20 people that you've got in your QI team, do you have, you said that you've got a mix of project managers, so they're involved in delivering the change projects, and then do you have a separate team that's dedicated to this programme of work that you've talked us through today? Or do you all do a little bit of everything?
Yeah, so Hayden and I primarily, everything we sort of talked about is what we've set up and sort of managed, and our team are sort of drafted in to support with our training or, you know, facilitation sessions. So no, we're all one big family.
Brilliant, thank you.
And I think we've just got time for Heather. We may run out of time for you, Anne, but I know that, or we may be able to go over, but I think we will be able to follow up. Should we quickly go to Heather? Anne, if you pop your question in the chat box, we will do our best to either follow up via text or outside of this session, if that's okay. I'm sorry for, we are going to struggle a little bit in terms of timing, but Heather, over to you.
Hello, my name is Heather. I'm from Royal Free, the QI team at Royal Free in London. Excellent presentation. I think that the way that you communicate, and particularly like your branding and your communications, look really, really professional. I think they look really good, very inspiring. I'm really interested in two things, and I would love to, I love the phrase pinch with pride. I've got a colleague who uses it all the time, really great. And on that note, I'd love to see maybe what content you cover for your QI for Managers Passport, because that's the thing that we're looking at the moment. You can train people to do QI, and that's not straightforward, but you know what to teach them. But actually, that second step about how do managers create environments in their team where people are sort of allowed or supported to do QI is really interesting. So I'd love to, maybe if I follow up with you guys outside of this, I'd love to see that, because we're in the process of thinking.
No, please do. Please reach out. I'd absolutely love to have a further chat and talk you through and show you what we've got.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
I think we will have time for Anne's questions.
I think there is another one in the chat as well, but
I think there was one about do we bring in specialists? And we fully utilise all of our experience, and so do a lot of signposting with our business intelligence unit, and we have our patient safety specialists. And so yeah, we by no means think we're the experts. We think of ourselves as a bit of a channel to what's out there in the rest of the organisation.
Fantastic. You use your library and knowledge services specialists.
Yeah, we do. And library services, yeah, they are fantastic resource for us. Never afraid to help us in whatever way they can. They are a lifeline, as it were.
Fantastic. And do you use CUSA? That was one of your
We-
questions.
Yeah, so our community foundation trust uses CUSA, but
Okay.
we don't.
Okay, brilliant. So guys, we are now out of time. We've got 1 minute left. If you do have any more questions, do pop them in the chat box. We will follow up with you. If you have questions outside of this, there will be a follow-up email that I'll send out to everyone who signed up to this session. It will be available on YouTube later today, and it will be shared via Twitter and via email with you all, together with the playlist of all of the previous sessions, and any future sessions will also be added to it. Because you signed up today, you'll also get invitations to future sessions as well. A massive thank you to Hayden and Lisa for a phenomenal session, and for all of the work that they put into sharing their story and their learning. If you'd like to take part or share your own story in a future session, do get in touch with me. It's all about sharing and learning from each other across the QI community nationally. So we'd love as many of the trust across the country to take part as possible. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join us today, and have a wonderful, hopefully sunny weekend. And thanks so much for joining our QI tribe. So thank you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.